Hello, friends, and welcome again to another episode of the POTLUCK podcast. Jared Cornutt, not joined by a Chinese air balloon, though Matt Hensley's head kind of looks like that when it's that bald, but joined with Matt Hensley and joined with Alan Murray. Guys, how are y'all doing on this lovely weekend?
I am doing great. Missed you guys last week, but I'd gotten used to it because we hadn't done this in like 30 years. So missed you guys, but doing well. Got to preach at First Farmersville today. A little tired, but it went well. And we have thawed out completely, and it's about 60 degrees out here. Wouldn't even know this past week was a frozen tundra and an entire week home with the girls because, I mean, we had a sheet of ice, man. That's hard to kind of prepare for, I guess.
Yeah.
But doing well. What about you, Alan?
I'm doing well, a little tired. Hope's grandfather died, and so we had his funeral today, and I preached this morning and preached a funeral yesterday. It's been a very busy weekend, but I'm incredibly excited because, as I told you guys earlier, I booked my tickets for New Orleans this evening. So headed to the SBC. Excited about that. I'm really just doing it for the crawfish etouffee and the redfish pontchartrain and to be involved with our polity, but those are the only reasons.
I'm literally only going because I have to, but that's about it.
I'm literally only going because I care about our convention. I think I should go. So
nice convention juke.
Yes. Well, Matt, like you, my kid was out of school all week as well because of the ice here in Dallas, and I wore short sleeves today on our walk around the neighborhood, and so. I guess that's just Texas. We had our annual chili cook-off at the church today, and I won the award for most beans in their chili, and so that was nice. But I was like, why couldn't we have had the chili cook-off, with the colder weather? It was not perfect weather for chili today, but I could eat chili kind of anytime. So it was a good day for us, too. But we're not here to talk about chili or sheets of ice or Allen's Noble or his maybe not so great reasons for going to the annual meeting. We're here to talk about Southern Baptist life. And Alan, you've got one that you're going to lead off with. It's a story here. Why don't you talk about this to us?
This is a great story that concerns us all that give to the cooperative program and give to the Lottie Moon Christmas offering. But I think it's especially close to home to me because it starts off with some folks from Coates, North Carolina, which is straight up the river from me, just about a county up from me in the metropolis of Coates, North Carolina. Baptist Press talks about the folks who came from Coates Baptist Church in Coates, North Carolina. Nearly 50 members piled in and headed up to the International Mission Board Sending Celebration in Richmond, Virginia, as they gathered around, wiping tears silently from around Bradley and Ember Wilkie to pray. Their pastor said, "We weren't afraid to send our best to the mission field for advancing the kingdom. We want to be a sending church to train our people in the missionary task." The article goes on to talk about the calling of this family that were headed out onto the mission field, how they'd previously been on short-term mission trips, and how this couple, the Wilkies, as well as 46 other missionaries were appointed by the mission board and sent out. But of course, the mission board doesn't send missionaries. Churches like Coates Baptist Church, churches like your church, local churches send missionaries on the mission field, at least Southern Baptist ones. And I thought it was a great article. What do you guys think? How do you feel if you had some of your best within the church that were called up and said they were going out and wanted to serve with the IMB?
Couldn't help but be thrilled if that was the case. I mean, obviously, you hate to lose anyone, and you would certainly, if there were some of your best, you would feel that effect. But we, as Southern Baptists, are great commission people. And so if we are raising up missionaries to be sent out in our church, I see that as the work of Ephesians 4, that the job of the minister is to equip the saints to do the work of ministry. If we're raising up leaders to go to the nations, there is no greater thing for us really to do, to be a part of. And so I think that's an incredible thing. And I pray in the church that I lead, and I pray in the churches that you lead, that God would call out the called, and that many in our churches would answer the call to go to the nations for the sake of the gospel.
Yeah, and at First Farmersville, we have a new student pastor, and one of the things that kind of his pillars and desires for each of the students is that they have at least one mission trip before they graduate high school, and really makes a very concerted effort to get them an opportunity to do those. And I love kind of how that ties into this because this couple that we were talking about from Coates began serving with some of those mission trips, and so they said that God used those trips as well as our burden for the nations and our life experiences to call us to serve as logistics coordinators in Mexico. And I love the also he added, "We aren't seminary trained. We're lay people from the church. And now the church that I grew up in, the church that invested and discipled us, is sending us to the nations." And so you never know. A lot of people can kind of dog on those short-term mission trips and so forth, but many times that can kind of spark a little fire or somebody with a desire or call to be able to go and be a missionary, and you can have a part to play in that as you disciple your teens, young adults, even older folks into missions. And speaking of missions, we're recording this on Sunday, February 5th. Of course, this is going to live after that. This will go live on Tuesday. But today at First Farmersville, we celebrated the George Liele Sunday by watching the video produced by the International Mission Board. And in this there's another article on Baptist Press about him and about kind of how that undergirds the Black Fellowship Church Planting Initiative as well. And so I wanted to see what you guys thought first. If y'all maybe made note of this in some way, if this was on your radar, I think it's pretty neat. Our very first missionary, Baptist International missionary, at least from America, was formerly enslaved, and yet kind of charted that course for us, guys.
Yeah, I didn't know about this, but our church is certainly familiar with George Liele. We kind of did a podcast for a little while talking about missions in our church when COVID started going. And George Liele was the first guy that we talked about. And so, I know there's a big emphasis on Southeastern with George Liele, and there's some debate. Is he the first missionary from North America? I think that he is. And I think that what he did was remarkable. But I didn't know about all this that you're sharing about.
This year we did not. I mentioned it last year. You guys know that I'm one of like 4 people that care about the SBC calendar, and I love to bring it up as much as humanly possible on our podcast. And we typically get our bulletins from Lifeway, and anytime there is an event or a designated day on the calendar, the bulletin for that Sunday will correspond. But we are trying to be good stewards of God's money and using a bunch of old bulletins that have been just stacked up for the longest time and quit ordering our quarterly supply bulletin. So I did not get a good visual reminder to everybody like we had last year on the Lifeway bulletin. But it has been mentioned before. Here in North Carolina, of course, it's got a lot of emphasis with Southeastern having an influence all across the state. I think it's a good thing. If you had asked, maybe 10 years ago in Southern Baptist Live who George Liele was, very few folks would be able to tell you. And probably today, just a few folks will be able to tell you, but I hope there's more than before.
Yeah, I love what they added. This man was born in slavery and still pastored a church and still became a missionary in another country, despite the brutal and demonically inspired North American slave trade, which Christians helped perpetuate. And so great overcoming obstacles. Great article we'll put in the show notes as well. And so we hope that you celebrated that. If you didn't, take some time to read up on George Liele and what we can learn about him, and celebrate, as we just did a moment ago, the sending of even more like him and like others to the nations to spread the good news. And as we go to the nations, we also go along our country, and many times we'll pass some crazy street names, crazy road names, road signs, all that good stuff. What's the craziest one you got there in North Carolina that you can think of, Alan?
Well, there's several. What actually inspired this? It's a road I've been by several times on my way back from our board of directors meeting for the Baptist State Convention, North Carolina. I passed by for probably the 4th time in my life, Chicken Foot Road. Chicken Foot Road. That's pretty unique. Another one that I've always been just love with this name is along Highway 64 in Quebec, the community I lived in Western North Carolina. There was a road called Dunwerken, Dunwerken, Dunwerken. And so I always wondered, like, is somebody retired at the end of this road? Or is this someone who's German or Belgian or something, and it's some word that I don't understand? But Dunwerken and Chicken Foot are probably two of my favorites, though there are a lot more, like Barbecue in Barbecue, North Carolina, and the Barbecue Presbyterian Church, and all of those things. There's a lot of great names.
What about you, Jared?
Oh, there's some great ones like Egg and Butter Road in Columbiana, Alabama, or This Ain't It Road in Dadeville, Alabama. I don't know how I got that name. Or Toot Holder Lane in Odinville, which begs the question, does a toot holder live on that road or that lane, or what is the reason for that? But I think my favorite is in Huntsville, Alabama, and it is Roll Tide Road.
God.
No better road could exist. RTR, baby.
Oh, man. Well, up the road from us in McKinney, there's Squeeze Penny Lane. And then we also have in Allen near us, Bossy Boots Drive. And but more to the point here on the Potluck podcast, in Granbury, Texas, there is Chicken Gristle Road. Chicken Gristle Road. And perhaps of the irony is in Houston, H-Town, baby, is an intersection with the street names Clinton and Fidelity. So, oh man. So, anyway, as you're driving on any crazy roads, let us know maybe your favorite crazy road. And Jared, why don't you send us out?
Yeah, let us know what roads you're driving on, and I hope that your church is raising up missionaries and even emphasizing and teaching about great men like George Liele who's gone to the nations. Glad to finally be back in a routine, recording the Potluck podcast again. You can catch every Tuesday on Spotify, Apple Music, and all those places. Thanks for joining us, friends. Join us next time. Same Baptist time, same Baptist hour. Stay Baptist, my friends.